Okay, hello everyone. This is Sharonda, and this is my podcast as well as my YouTube channel, Spiritual Sense. And in this podcast as well as YouTube channel, I'll go over topics in regards to the paranormal, occult, and supernatural. And so I speak on a variety of topics, such as uh, spiritual manifestation, metaphysics, out of body experiences, soul travel, near death experiences, angels, demons, spirit guides. I also discuss pagan belief systems and practices such as Wiccan, witchcraft, hoodoo, voodoo, black and white magic. And I'd like to start off by saying that this podcast, as well as this YouTube channel, is for entertainment purposes. And so we're going to proceed with the topic for today. And I think this is the second or third time that I have spoken about this topic, and that is metaphysics. Metaphysics. I discovered metaphysics or the meaning behind metaphysics back almost 20 years ago. And I've told this story the same time each time. I was at a crossroad in my life when I began to question purpose, existence, how do we come about, what is the meaning of it all. And I began to reach out into several different churches, several different denominations and belief systems. And I came across a word by the name of metaphysics. And so it was actually a in a bookstore. It was actually a section in a bookstore, and it had all of these types of books that sparked my curiosity because I'm type. I've always been one of those. You know, I guess you would call it eclectic, eccentric. Which some people may refer to that as being born, whatever. But metaphysics, I came across a lot of the books, and I still have a couple of those books around now. And so, what is metaphysics? It is a new age term. It's not new. It's when you have come into knowing. That's basically what new age is. It's a new knowing. Similar to how we hear about discovered, like they mentioned about Christopher Columbus discovered, and you begin to see when somebody comes into knowledge about something. That's basically what that is. So it's the branch of philosophy that deals with the first principles of things, including abstract concepts such as being, knowing, substance, cause, identity, time, and space. It's an abstract theory with no basis in reality. So that's what it as defined here as to what metaphysics is. Like it's not nothing of substance. It's not nothing that you can definitively, logically based. In other words, metaphysics again is the branch of philosophy that studies the fundamental nature of reality, the first principles of being, identity, and change, space and time, causality, necessity, and possibility. It includes questions about the nature of consciousness and the relationship between mind and matter, between substance and attribute, and between potentiality and actuality. The word metaphysics comes from two Greek words that together literally mean after or beyond or among the study of the natural. It has been suggested that the term might have been coined by a first century CE editor who assembled various small sections of Aristotle's work into the treatises we now know by the name Metaphysics, after the physics. Metaphysics studies questions related to what it is for something to exist and what type of existence there are. Metaphysics seeks to answer in an abstract and fully general manner the questions of what there is, what it is like. Topics of metaphysical investigation include existence, objects, and their properties, space and time, cause and effect, and possibilities. Metaphysics is considered one of the four main branches of philosophy among the epistemology, logic, and ethics. So the etymology, the word metaphysics derived from Greek words meta and physica, and I don't know how to speak Greek. It was first used as the title for several Aristotle works because they were usually anthologized after the works on physics in complete editions. The prefix meta after indicates that these works come after the chapters on physics. However, Aristotle himself did not call the subject of these books metaphysics. He referred to it as the first philosophy. The editor of Aristotle's work, Andronicus of Rhodes, is thought to have placed the books on first philosophy right after another work, physics, and called them the books that come after the books on physics. However, once the name was given, the commentators sought to find other reasons for its appropriateness. For instance, Thomas Aquinas understood it to refer to the chronological and pedagogical order among our philosophical studies, so that the metaphysical sciences would mean those that we study after having mastered the sciences that deal with the physical world. The term was misread by other medieval commentators who thought it meant the science of what it is beyond the physical. Following this tradition, the prefix meta has more recently been prefixed to the names of sciences to designate higher sciences dealing with ulterior and more fundamental problems, hence mathematics, metaphysiology. A person who creates or develops metaphysical theories is called a metaphysician. Common parlance also uses the word metaphysics for different reverent from that of those already mentioned, namely for beliefs in arbitrary, arbitrary non-physical or magical entities. For example, metaphysical healing to refer to healing by means of remedies that are magical rather than scientific. The usage stemmed from the various historical schools of speculative metaphysics, which operated by postulating all manner of physical, mental, and spiritual entities as basis for particular metaphysical systems. Metaphysics as a subject does not preclude beliefs in such magical entities, but neither does it promote them. Rather, it is a subject which provides the vocabulary and logic with which such beliefs might be analyzed and studied. For example, to search for inconsistencies both within themselves and with others accepted systems, such as science. So, of course, as we know, the information that you will see here can be very, very, very extensive. I'm going to uh, because it gets really, really deep. Space and time. Objects appear to us in space and time, while abstract entities such as classes, properties, and relations do not. How do space and time serve this function as a ground for objects? Are space and time entities themselves of some form? Must they exist prior to objects? How exactly can they be defined? How is time related to change? Must there always be something changing in order for time to exist? Causity. So it mentions about classical philosophy recognize a number of causes, including teleological final causes, in special relativity and quantum field theory, the notions of space, time, and causality become tangled together with temporal orders of causations become dependent on who is observing them. The laws of the physics are symmetrical in time, so could equally well be used to describe time as running backwards. Why then do we perceive it as following in one direction, the arrow of time, and as containing causation flowing in the same direction? For that matter, can an effect precede its cause? This was the title of a 1954 paper by Michael Domet, which sparked a discussion that continues today. Earlier in 1947, C.S. Lewis had argued that one can meaningfully pray concerning the outcome of a medical test while recognizing that the outcome is determined by past events. My free act contributes to the cosmic shape. Likewise, some interpretation of quantum mechanics dating to 1945 evolved backward in time causal influences. Hmm. Causality is linked by many philosophers to the concept of counterfactuals. To say that A caused B means that if A had not happened, then B would not have happened. The view was advanced by David Lewis in his 1973 Causation. His subsequent papers further developed his theory of causation. Causality is usually required as a foundation for philosophy of science if science aims to understand causes and effects and make predictions about them. So we're going to get into metaphysical cosmology and cosmogony. Physical cosmology is the branch of metaphysics that deals with the world as the totality of all phenomena in space and time. Historically, it formed a major part of the subject alongside ontology, though its role is more peripheral in contemporary philosophy. It has had a broad scope and, in many cases, was founded in religion. The ancient Greeks drew no distinction between this use and their model for the cosmos. However, in modern time, it addresses questions about the universe which are beyond the scope of the physical sciences. It is distinguished from religious cosmology in that it approaches these questions using philosophical methods or dialectics. Cosmogony deals specifically with the origin of the universe. Modern metaphysical cosmology and cosmogony try to address questions such as what is the origin of the universe? What is it first caused? Is its existence necessary? What are the ultimate material components of the universe? What is the ultimate reason for the existence of the universe? Does the cosmos have a purpose? So we have mind and matter, accounting for the existence of mind and in a world largely composed of matter is a metaphysical problem which is so large and important as to have become a specialized subject of study in its own right, philosophy of mind. So I mean, it goes in, you know, I mean, it really goes in a little deeper than the branch that I'm into. So I'm going to proceed to pull up some more information because, um, I spoke about Carl Jung about the quantum physics, the quantum universe. So I'm going to actually Google that, the quantum universe theory. So it mentions that, and let me expand this because it's a lot of information. Okay, so quantum theory, a theory which completely changed the understanding. What is the quantum theory? I don't think that's where I'm heading at what I want to speak on. Quantum universe is what I'm going to speak about. It's just a couple of things here in regards to quantum um, physics and quantum universe. So it mentions about quantum theory. It's one of the two main planks of modern physics, along with general relativity. And between them, the two theories claim to explain virtually everything about the universe. General relativity, um, giving us our picture of the very big space time and gravity, while quantum theory gives us our picture of the very small atoms and their const- constituents. Technically, quantum theory is actually the theory of any objects isolated from their surroundings, but because it is very difficult to isolate large objects from their environments, it essentially becomes a theory of the microscopic world of atoms and subatomic particles. This is especially true for those parts of the theory which rely on the absolute indistinguishability of fundamental particles and which is impossible to find in everyday world of composite large-scale objects. So this is getting more so into scientific explanation. I think I'm going to add spiritual to this because this is what I am focused on in regards to this podcast. Relation. What is the relationship between quantum physics and spirituality? Again, what is quantum physics? Quantum is a minimal unit of any physical entity involved in an interaction. Quantum theory is a branch of physics which is the fundamental theory of nature at small scales and low energies of atom and subatomic particles. Quantum mechanics differs from classical physics in that energy, momentum, and other quantities are often restricted to discrete values. Quantum physics or quantum mechanics provides a mathematical description of the wave and particle duality and interactions of energy and matter. What is the connection between quantum physics and consciousness? Well, consciousness or observation can affect the physical world around us is called the Copenhagen interpretation. According to Copenhagen interpretation, and as long as there is no consciousness observing a system, then the system will evolve in time according to the rules of quantum mechanics, such as waves and superpositions. However, the moment that a conscious observer observes the system, it suddenly stops obeying the laws of quantum mechanics, and rather than being a superposition of states, snaps to one state. Essentially, the act of observation creates a definite reality. Among quantum physicists, the best theory is the many worlds hypothesis. Here's the basic idea. So it just goes on and on and on. It really is not getting me to where I want to go, so let me dig a little deeper. Are quantum physics and spirituality related? Spirituality is a human construct. Quantum mechanics is a science. Quantum theories aren't just shooting in the dark and making up fanciful things. There are experimentalists out here who are working on these theories, verifying experimentally and bringing them into fruition. There are several interpretations of quantum mechanics as described here, arguably more philosophy than science. The scientific community has zeroed in on one interpretation, but the theories and of quantum mechanics have been demonstrated to be correct. So, quantum mechanics says nothing about life and death, God, or anything else that isn't even remotely related to the domain of science. Some physicists do talk about consciousness and still do quantum mechanics. Most of their efforts go into either figuring out ways of using quantum mechanic resources to do nifty things. So this is basically, a person's own. And I don't like to plagiarize because I do realize that, you know, yeah, I think God has a way of by spirit giving us insight, and oftentimes it will. You do have that duality, in terms of science, logic, reasoning versus spiritual. So it's a duality of opposing forces. Um, this is not exactly getting to where I want in terms of when I mentioned about a quantum uh, universe. I think where I'm getting at is relativity. Let me put in relativity because if you begin to take note of things in relation to relativity, one thing will tattle on to something else. So we're going to go to relativity, widely ranging physical theories formed by the German born physicist Albert Einstein with his theories of the special relativity in 1905 and general relativity in 1915. Einstein overthrew many assumptions underlying earlier physical theories, redefining in the process the fundamental concepts of space, time, matter, energy, and gravity along with the quantum mechanics relativity is central to modern physics. So I'm going. This is not exactly where I want to head in this particular podcast. And because I'm ill prepared, but I do feel as though I am missing metaphysical. Because that's essentially where I want to get to. Metaphysical or related to metaphysics, of or related to the transcendent, or to a reality beyond what is perceptible to the senses, supernatural. highly abstract. So I only have a few minutes here. I'm going to briefly read what that is, metaphysical. Metaphysical. Pretty much the paranormal. Is you have to spend it in your awakening, and it's a pretty much a study of relativity, has how spirituality meets science. So that's basically what metaphysical it is. Um, it's more or less abstract. There's no quote fact base behind metaphysical. It's all based on perception. Is it something going on with this person individually, biologically, mentally? Okay. So we're going to pull up. I found some information here for time purposes. I'm going to briefly read it, and it mentions about seven. Let me get a lot of this and pull off of here. Let's see. The seven laws of metaphysical belief. So the law of life. The law of life encourages those who practice metaphysics to look at the relationship between them and the outside world and then to evaluate these components. To be good to the outside world and to think good thoughts helps the person experience good things. On the other side of things, to be a bad person with negative thoughts and poor actions means that the relationship in between the person and his or her environment will always be unpleasant. And that is so true. Basically, metaphysical is the laws of attraction. If you put out negative energy will perpetuate. But oftentimes, when you are dealing with demonic spirits, it would do to the contrary. No matter how good you are, it's going to give you some type of pushback. So that is not always the case. The law of truth. This says that truth is always the best path, and it will succeed over lies or falsehoods. People who practice metaphysics are encouraged to always tell the truth, but to be compassionate about it and to have insightful discretion. The law of compensation. This is the law that is most similar to the concept of karma. The law of compensation says that when a person puts positive work into the world, positive things will happen to him or her. On the opposite side of things, if a person thinks negative thoughts and have poor spirituality, then he or she will experience bad situations again and again. Or if you are dealing with someone who, as I mentioned in my podcast, a lost soul, oftentimes they would use you to speak for them, particularly if you are in favor. So I have to give input my opinion on that as well. We have the law of abundance, the idea that when a person offers services, help, kind words, or any other positive idea or act, this person will see positivity in his or her life tenfold. Putting out good vibes and positive thoughts into the world means that more good vibes and positive thoughts will come back. The law of love. The law of love says that there is a creative force of all life in the universe and that it is both inside every living thing and also surrounds them. This creative force can be manifested in the power of love and is everywhere in both the seen and unseen planes of existence. The law of perfection. This law states since all objects, plants, animals, and people are part of the creative force inside of them, and since that creative force is perfect, all things have the opportunity and ability to become perfect. Perfection is achieved by having a good spiritual and earthly balance, by thinking positive thoughts